the fumbled first impression. The transport shuttle shuddered as it descended through Azureth's purple-tinged atmosphere, and Dr. Marcus Rivera gripped the armrest hard enough to leave impressions in the synthetic leather. 48 hours ago, he'd been cataloging bacterial samples in a comfortable lab on Europa. Now he was being thrust into diplomatic negotiations because the actual ambassador had contracted Venusian flu, and apparently his published paper on Azurian biochemistry made him qualified. 3 minutes to landing, Dr. Rivera, the pilot announced through the intercom. Marcus pressed his forehead against the window, watching the alien landscape materialize below. Azureth existed in perpetual twilight, caught in a tidal lock between its two suns. Cities of crystalline towers stretched across the surface, glowing, with bioluminescent light that pulsed like a heartbeat, beautiful and utterly terrifying. The shuttle touched down in the Royal District, and Marcus was immediately swept into a procession of Azurian officials. They were tall, elegant beings with skin that ranged from deep violet to lavender, their movements graceful despite their warrior builds. Each wore intricate armor that seemed to grow from their bodies rather than being worn over them. "The Queen will see you immediately," his escort said, her accent musical but clipped. "You will address her as Your Radiance, and maintain eye contact only when she permits it. Do you understand?" Marcus nodded, his mind racing through the briefing materials he'd barely had time to read. The throne room doors opened before he could prepare himself. Queen Lyra Voss sat upon a throne that appeared carved from a single massive amethyst. She was stunning in a way that made Marcus forget to breathe. Her purple skin seemed to shimmer with an inner light, and her eyes were the color of distant nebulas. She wore armor that accentuated rather than hid her form, and her presence dominated the vast chamber. "Dr. Rivera," she said, her voice resonating through the space. "Earth sends a scientist to negotiate with warriors. Should I be insulted or intrigued?" Marcus stepped forward, exhaustion and nerves making his thoughts fuzzy. He'd been awake for nearly 30 hours. "Your Radiance, I assure you, Earth takes these negotiations seriously. I may not be a professional diplomat, but I understand your people's biology. Your needs." He stopped, realizing he'd been staring. Her posture, the way she held herself, with such absolute confidence, the strength evident in every line of her form. The words tumbled out before he could stop them. "Your physique. It's remarkable. Perfectly adapted. I've never seen such ideal biomechanical efficiency in humanoid form." The throne room fell into absolute silence. Marcus's face burned as he realized what he'd just said. Every Azurian in the room stared at him with expressions ranging from shock to outright fury. He'd just commented on the Queen's body in front of her entire court. I meant scientifically speaking, of course," he stammered. "Your musculature, the skeletal structure, the way your species evolved for both strength and agility." Silence. Lyra's single word cut through his babbling. She rose from her throne with fluid grace, descending the steps toward him. Marcus fought every instinct to step back as she approached, her eyes locked on his face. She circled him slowly, and he could feel the heat radiating from her body despite the cool air of the throne room. When she finally stopped in front of him, barely an arm's length away, her expression was unreadable. "In 500 years of rule, no one has ever spoken to me with such directness." Her lips curved into something that might have been amusement. "Tell me, Dr. Rivera, do humans always blurt out their observations, or is this boldness reserved for me?" "It's usually reserved for when I'm about to pass out from exhaustion," Marcus admitted, too tired to lie. A ripple of surprise went through the court. But Lyra's smile widened, revealing teeth slightly sharper than human norm. Honest to the point of self-destruction. How refreshing. She returned to her throne, but her gaze never left him. Your quarters have been prepared. Rest. Tomorrow, we will discuss whether your people's mining proposals have any merit, and perhaps why you find our biology so fascinating. The forbidden curiosity. Marcus woke to artificial twilight filtering through crystalline walls. His quarters were surprisingly comfortable. The Azurians had even adjusted the temperature to human preferences. He'd slept for 12 hours straight, his body finally recovering from the journey and the mortification of his first impression. A soft chime announced a visitor. Marcus opened the door to find a young Azurian attendant holding a tray of food and a sealed message tablet. "From Her Radiance," the attendant said, bowing before departing quickly. Marcus broke the seal and read, "Dr. Rivera, join me in the observatory garden at sunset. Come alone. We have much to discuss about biomechanical efficiency, LV." He couldn't tell if she was mocking him or genuinely interested. Either way, refusing a royal summons seemed unwise. The observatory garden was unlike anything Marcus had seen. Exotic plants from across the galaxy grew in careful arrangements, many of them bioluminescent, creating a landscape of living light. Lyra stood at the center, wearing simpler attire than her throne room armor, a flowing garment that moved like liquid shadow. "You came," she said without turning around. "You commanded it," Marcus replied, then winced. That sounded less confrontational in my head. This time her laugh was genuine. "There it is again, that remarkable inability to dissemble." She turned to face him, and in the softer light, she looked less like an untouchable queen and more like a woman. "Sit with me, and please, when we're alone, call me Lyra." They sat on a bench carved from luminescent stone. Marcus tried to maintain proper distance, but she shifted closer, studying him with open curiosity. "You mentioned understanding my people's needs," Lyra said. "What do you know of us truly?" Marcus fell into the comfort of academic discussion. "Your people evolved under unique stellar conditions. The dual suns created a radiation-rich environment that forced adaptations. Your purple pigmentation protects against UV exposure while allowing you to photosynthesize certain wavelengths. But it came at a cost. Your metabolism is incredibly efficient but requires constant energy intake. Without it, your people experience what you call the dulling." Lyra's expression shifted to something more vulnerable. "You've done your research. It's why Earth's mining proposal includes energy crystals, not just minerals. We know your reserves are depleting." He hesitated. "I read that even your royal family isn't immune, that the dulling affects everyone eventually." She was quiet for a long moment, her gaze distant. "I haven't felt truly energized in decades. We survive, we function, but the vitality our ancestors knew, it's fading with each generation." She looked at him directly. "Yet yesterday, when you stood before me, when you spoke with such unfiltered honesty, I felt something I haven't experienced in years. Curiosity, interest, a spark." Marcus's heart hammered in his chest. "Lyra, I don't think—" "Why did you really say what you said?" she interrupted, leaning closer. "The truth, Marcus, not the scientific explanation." He could smell something like ozone and night-blooming flowers on her skin. "Because you're beautiful," he admitted quietly, "and terrifying. And I'd been staring at you trying to figure out how someone could be both. And my exhausted brain decided to share that observation with everyone in the room." Her hand reached out, fingertips barely brushing his jaw. Her touch was warm, almost feverish. "Do I still terrify you?" "Absolutely," he whispered. "Good. Fear keeps humans cautious." But she didn't pull away. Instead, her thumb traced along his cheekbone, her expression one of wonder. "Your skin is so soft, so fragile. How do your people survive being so delicate?" "We're tougher than we look." "Are you?" The challenge in her voice was clear, but there was something else too, a hunger that had nothing to do with energy depletion. Marcus knew he should move away. should remember his mission, the political implications. Instead, he reached up and caught her hand in his, pressing it more firmly against his face. "Why am I here, Lyra? Not in this garden, on Azureth. Why? Did you request Earth send someone immediately? Your council could have waited months for negotiations." She intertwined her fingers with his, studying their joined hands with fascination. "Because my people are dying slowly and I'm tired of watching it happen. Because I needed someone who would see us as more than warriors or obstacles." She met his eyes. "And perhaps because I'd heard humans were passionate creatures and I wanted to remember what passion felt like." "This is dangerous," Marcus said, even as he drew her hand to his chest, letting her feel his racing heartbeat. "I've commanded armies." "Across 3 star systems," Lyra murmured, her face now inches from his. "Danger is familiar, but this, whatever this is, feels like standing at the edge of an abyss I've never encountered before. We barely know each other. Then tell me something true, Marcus Rivera. Something you've never told another soul." He thought of all the safe answers he could give. Instead, he said, "I volunteered for this mission because I've spent my entire life studying alien species from a distance, afraid to actually connect with them, afraid that if I got too close, I'd want to stay, that I'd stop being human and become something else." Lyra's breath caught. "And now?" "Now I'm sitting in an alien garden with a queen who makes me forget why I was ever afraid." The touch that changed everything. The next 2 weeks transformed Marcus's understanding of everything he thought he knew about diplomacy, alien biology, and his own heart. Official negotiations proceeded during the day. Mining rights, energy exchange programs, cultural protocols. But every evening, Lyra would summon him to different locations: the observatory garden, her private library, once even to the royal training grounds where she taught him Azurian combat forms. "You're terrible at this," she laughed, catching his clumsy strike easily and spinning him around until his back pressed against her front, her arm across his chest. "I'm a scientist, not a warrior," Marcus protested, acutely aware of every point where their bodies connected. "And yet you're brave enough to court a queen," she murmured against his ear, sending shivers down his spine. "That requires a different kind of courage." They'd been careful. Stolen moments, private spaces, nothing that would create scandal. But Marcus could see the changes in Lyra. She moved with more energy, her skin glowed brighter, and her court had noticed. Whispers followed them both now. Tonight, Lyra had invited him to her private chambers for the first time. Marcus's hands trembled slightly as he approached the royal wing, nodded past by guards who pretended not to see him. Her rooms were surprisingly intimate. Less throne room, more personal sanctuary. Books and star charts covered every surface. Lyra stood by a massive window overlooking the Capitol, still in her formal court attire. "Bad day?" Marcus asked, seeing the tension in her shoulders. "The council grows suspicious. They question why negotiations are taking so long, why I meet with you so frequently." She turned to him and he saw genuine fear in her eyes for the first time. "They're suggesting I send you home and request a different negotiator." Marcus crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling her into his arms. She melted against him, her carefully maintained royal composure cracking. "Then we'll finish the negotiations," he said practically, even as his heart screamed in protest. "The treaty is nearly complete anyway. And then you'll leave." Her voice was small, unqueen-like. "I don't want to." Lyra pulled back to look at him, her hands framing his face. "Then stay. Not as a diplomat. Those duties are nearly finished. Stay as mine. Your what? Your consort? Lyra, your people would never accept a human—" She kissed him fiercely, cutting off his protests. When she spoke again, her lips still brushed against his. "I don't care what they accept. For 500 years, I've done what was expected, what was proper. I've watched my people fade, watched myself fade, and told myself duty was enough." Her eyes searched his. "Then you stumbled into my throne room and saw me. Not the queen, not the warrior, but me." and for the first time in centuries, I felt like I could breathe. Marcus kissed her back, pouring months of loneliness and longing into it. His hands found the fastenings of her formal armor, and she helped him remove the layers until she stood before him in simpler clothing, more vulnerable than he'd ever seen her. "There's something I need to tell you," Lyra said, her voice shaking slightly. "Something I've discovered these past weeks. When we touch, when we're close, my energy levels stabilize. More than stabilize, they increase. My physicians can't explain it, but the data is clear. Marcus's scientific mind engaged despite his racing heart. That's impossible. Human bioelectric fields are too weak to... I know what the science says, but I also know what I feel." She took his hand and placed it over her heart. "Here, feel it." Her heartbeat was strong, steady, faster than human norm, but rhythmic and powerful. Under his palm, he could feel warmth radiating from her skin, an energy he'd never noticed before. "It's like you complete a circuit," Lyra continued. "My people photosynthesize energy but can never store enough. We're always depleting, always fading. But with you..." She pressed closer, her arms encircling his waist. "With you, I feel full for the first time in my life." "This changes everything," Marcus whispered. "It changes nothing about what I feel for you." She guided him backward until they reached her sleeping platform, lowering them both onto the soft surface. "I love you, Marcus Rivera. I don't care if it's been only weeks. I don't care if my counsel forbids it. I love you, and I'm tired of pretending otherwise." Marcus cradled her face in his hands, thumbs stroking over her cheekbones. "I love you too. So much it terrifies me." They lay together in the dim light, exploring this connection that neither fully understood. Marcus traced the patterns on her skin, natural markings that glowed faintly, like constellations mapped across her body. Lyra responded to every touch with wonder, her own hands learning the geography of his form. "So different," she murmured, fingers trailing down his spine. "Softer, warmer in a different way." "Do you ever wish I was Azurian?" Marcus asked quietly. "Never." She kissed his shoulder, his neck, his jaw. "I wish the universe made it easier for us. But I don't wish you different." They made love slowly, carefully, learning each other's rhythms and responses. Lyra was strong enough to hurt him accidentally, so she moved with deliberate gentleness that somehow made everything more intense. Marcus discovered that the markings on her skin glowed brighter with arousal, creating a luminous map of her pleasure. Afterward, they lay tangled together, her head on his chest, his fingers combing through her hair. The bioluminescent patterns on her skin pulsed in time with both their heartbeats now, synchronized. "We can't hide this much longer," Marcus said into the peaceful silence. "I know." Lyra's fingers traced idle patterns on his chest. "Tomorrow the council meets to finalize the treaty. They'll expect you to return to Earth immediately after." "What do you want me to do?" She propped herself up on one elbow, looking down at him with fierce determination. "I want you to stand beside me and tell them you're staying. I want you to help me find a way to save my people using whatever this connection is between us. I want you to be brave enough to love me in front of the entire galaxy." Marcus pulled her down for a kiss that held all his answer. "Then that's what I'll do." But neither of them could have predicted how violently their worlds would resist what came next. When worlds collide, the council chamber felt suffocating despite its vast size. Marcus stood beside Lyra's throne, acutely aware of every hostile gaze fixed upon him. The treaty documents lay on the central table, awaiting final signatures, but the tension in the room had nothing to do with mining rights. "Your Radiance," High Commander Torvin spoke, his deep purple skin nearly black with anger. "We must address the irregularity of these proceedings. Dr. Rivera was sent as a temporary negotiator. The treaty is complete, yet he remains in the palace, and you've denied Earth's requests for his return." Lyra's voice was steady, regal. "Dr. Rivera remains at my invitation. His expertise has proven invaluable." "His expertise," another council member sneered. "Is that what we're calling it? The entire palace speaks of your midnight meetings, Your Radiance. This human has bewitched you." Marcus felt Lyra tense beside him. Before she could respond, he stepped forward. "I understand your concerns, This situation is unprecedented. But what if I told you that my presence here serves a purpose beyond diplomacy? Explain yourself, human, Torvin demanded. Marcus glanced at Lyra, who gave him a nearly imperceptible nod. They'd discussed this moment, prepared for it, but facing the reality was different. Queen Lyra's physicians have documented something remarkable. When we're in proximity, her energy levels increase by 43%. Her cellular regeneration accelerates. The dulling that affects all Azurians, it reverses in her presence with me. Silence fell over the chamber. Then Torvin laughed, a harsh sound. You expect us to believe a fragile human somehow cures what our greatest scientists cannot? I expect you to look at the medical data, Lyra said coldly. She activated a holographic display showing weeks of biometric readings. The evidence was undeniable. Her vital signs, energy levels, everything improved dramatically in Marcus's presence. This isn't mysticism. It's measurable, repeatable phenomenon. An older counselor, Lady Sirai, leaned forward with interest. If this is true, could it work for others? Could humans help reverse the dulling across our population? We don't know yet, Marcus admitted. But I'm proposing we establish a research program. Bring human scientists here, study the interaction between our species. If we can understand why this happens with Lyra and me, we might be able to replicate it. And meanwhile, you remain here, close to our queen. Torvin's tone made it clear what he thought of that arrangement. I remain here because I love her, Marcus said simply. The gasps that followed were expected. I know that's not what you want to hear. I know I'm an outsider, that by your laws and customs I have no right to stand beside her. But the universe doesn't care about our laws. Something is happening between our species, something that could save your people. Are you really going to reject it because it comes wrapped in a form you don't approve of? Torvin stood abruptly. This is an outrage. A human cannot... The explosion cut him off. The western wall of the council chamber erupted inward, throwing bodies across the room. Marcus hit the ground hard, ears ringing, tasting blood. Through the smoke and chaos, he saw figures in black armor pouring through the breach. Azurian rebels, their faces covered. The queen, someone screamed. Protect her radiance! Sideline introductions. Maya Reeves blew her whistle with the practiced precision of someone who'd spent half her life on soccer fields. 20 teenage girls immediately froze, their cleats digging into the damp grass of Lincoln High's practice field. At 32, Maya had built her reputation on discipline, passion, and results. 3 consecutive state championships that transformed a once-forgotten girls' soccer program into the pride of Westfield. Miller, that pass was telegraphed from a mile away, she called, jogging toward the center of the field. Remember what we talked about. Disguise your intentions until the last possible moment. As practice continued, Maya noticed a new face among the small group of parents watching from the sidelines. A tall man in a button-down with rolled-up sleeves stood beside a small girl who couldn't have been more than 9. They weren't regulars, and Maya prided herself on knowing her community. After wrapping up practice, Maya approached them while her assistant coach collected equipment. Hi there, I'm Coach Reeves, she said, extending her hand. Are you looking for information about the program? The man smiled, revealing a slight dimple in his right cheek. Derek Winters, he replied, shaking her hand. And this is my daughter, Zoe. We just moved to Westfield last month, and she's been begging to join a soccer team. Zoe, a slight girl with curly brown hair and bright eyes, looked up at Maya with undisguised admiration. I've been practicing every day at the park, she said, her voice earnest. Dad got me a real soccer ball and everything. Maya knelt to meet Zoe at eye level. That's dedication. We like that around here. How old are you, Zoe? 9 3/4, Zoe announced proudly. Maya smiled. Well, our youth development program meets Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4. Coach Patel runs that group. She's amazing with the younger players. Derek nodded, making a note in his phone. Perfect. We can make that work. Something about his careful attention to detail caught Maya's notice. Most parents nodded along and then forgot half of what she said. New to town entirely? She asked. Yeah, I'm a business consultant. My firm opened an office here to work with some of the manufacturing plants in the area. He glanced at Zoe with unmistakable affection. "It's just the two of us, so we're still finding our way around." Maya felt a tug of empathy. Westfield wasn't the easiest town to break into socially. The soccer community here is pretty tight-knit. You'll meet people quickly. "That's what we're hoping for," Derek said, his eyes catching hers for a moment longer than necessary. Over the following weeks, Maya noticed Derek at every youth practice, always arriving early and staying late. Unlike some parents who spent the entire time on their phones, he watched attentively, occasionally helping Coach Patel set up equipment. During one practice, a sudden downpour sent everyone scrambling. Maya found Derek struggling to help Coach Patel cover equipment with tarps. "Here," she called, running over with extra tarps from her varsity storage. Their hands brushed as they worked together, and Maya felt an unexpected warmth that had nothing to do with exertion. "Thanks," Derek said, raindrops clinging to his eyelashes. "Zoe would be heartbroken if practice got canceled." "She's got real talent," Maya replied truthfully. "She listens and adapts quickly." Derek's face lit up with pride. "That means a lot coming from you. Zoe talks about you constantly. Coach Maya this, Coach Maya that." Maya felt herself blush and blamed it on the rain. "Just doing my job." "No," Derek said quietly. "You're doing much more than that. You're building confidence. I haven't seen Zoe this excited about anything since before her mother left." The personal admission hung between them, neither awkward nor uncomfortable, simply true. Maya nodded, understanding the weight of his words. "Sometimes the field is the only place that makes sense," she offered. "It has clear boundaries, defined goals, and teammates who have your back." Derek looked at her with newfound appreciation. "I never thought of it that way." As the rain subsided, Maya realized they'd been standing closer than necessary, talking while the other parents and children had already scattered to their cars. Something had shifted, subtle but undeniable, like the first green shoot breaking through spring soil. "See you Thursday?" she asked, suddenly self-conscious. Derek smiled, that same dimple appearing. "We wouldn't miss it." Beyond the whistle, Maya found herself checking her watch as Thursday's youth practice approached. She arrived early, ostensibly to review training plans with Coach Patel, but her eyes drifted to the parking lot more often than she cared to admit. "Looking for someone?" Coach Patel asked with a knowing smile. "Just making sure we have enough cones set up," Maya replied, feeling heat rise to her cheeks. When Derek's sedan pulled in, Maya busied herself with adjusting goal nets. Zoe bounded across the field, her enthusiasm infectious as she joined her teammates. Derek followed at a distance, offering Maya a small wave as he found his usual spot on the sidelines. Practice flowed smoothly, but afterward Maya found herself lingering as parents collected their children. When Derek approached, Zoe at his side, Maya felt an unexpected flutter in her stomach. "Coach Maya!" Zoe exclaimed. "Did you see my penalty kick?" "Sure did," Maya smiled. "Your follow-through is getting much better." Derek cleared his throat. "Actually, I was hoping to ask you something." He hesitated, then continued. "The school's hosting a community dinner tomorrow night for new families. I'm supposed to attend, but I hardly know anyone." "Dad wants to know if you'll come too," Zoe interrupted, grinning up at her father's suddenly flustered expression. Maya laughed, surprised by the directness. "Is that right?" Derek ran a hand through his hair. "I was working up to that part," he admitted. "But yes, I'd appreciate a friendly face there. Strictly professional, of course." "Of course," Maya echoed, though something in his eyes suggested otherwise. "I think I can manage that." The community dinner proved livelier than Maya expected. She wore a simple blue dress, casual enough for a school function, but nicer than her usual coaching attire. Derek's double take when he spotted her across the gymnasium gave her a small thrill. "You clean up well, Coach," he said, approaching with 2 cups of punch. "As do you," she replied, accepting the drink. Derek had traded his usual business casual for a proper suit, though he'd skipped the tie. "Where's Zoe tonight?" "Sleepover with a new friend from class." "Progress, right?" They circulated together, Maya introducing Derek to teachers and community members. Their conversation flowed easily, jumping from soccer strategies to favorite books to childhood memories. By the time they stepped outside for fresh air, Maya realized 2 hours had passed in what felt like minutes. "Thank you for this," Derek said, leaning against the brick wall beside her. Moving here was the right decision for Zoe, but some nights the silence in that house feels overwhelming, Maya offered. "Exactly. I understand," she said quietly. "After my divorce 3 years ago, I threw myself into coaching. The whistle and clipboard became my shield." Derek turned to face her. "And now?" Maya met his gaze. "Now I'm standing outside a school gym with a man who makes me laugh, wondering if this crosses some professional boundary I've set for myself." "Does it?" he asked, his voice low. "Probably," she admitted. "But I'm finding it hard to care." When Derek walked her to her car, their hands brushed twice before he gently took hers. Neither mentioned it, but both smiled all the way to the parking lot. Over the following weeks, their relationship developed in quiet moments. Coffee after Saturday practice, texts about Zoe's progress, a chance meeting at the farmer's market that turned into a 2-hour conversation over pastries. Maya found herself sharing parts of herself she'd kept locked away since her marriage ended. Her dreams of coaching at the collegiate level, her fear of starting over, her quiet hope for a family someday. Derek listened in a way that made Maya feel truly seen. He shared his own struggles, balancing career ambitions with single parenthood, rebuilding his confidence after his ex-wife's abandonment, learning to trust again. One evening, after helping Maya organize equipment for an upcoming tournament, Derek paused at his car. Zoe had already climbed into the back seat, engrossed in a book. "I know we've been taking things slow," he said, his voice hesitant, "but I'd like to cook dinner for you sometime. At our house." With Zoe's enthusiastic approval, I might add, Maya felt a moment of panic. Dinner at his home felt significant, a crossing of yet another boundary. But looking at Derek's hopeful expression, she realized she'd been waiting for exactly this invitation. "I'd love that," she said simply, and the smile that bloomed across his face was worth every second of uncertainty.